Hey guys, this is Matt
Pete.
and my lovely partner.
Goldie.
Today we are talking about some of the rules and the regulations of building in our HOA or our POA that we live in, and in our county.
We're just kind of run over some of the permits and some of the things you have to do prior to building here in our Property Owners Association in Crestone, Colorado, which is the town, but technically the Property Owners Association is called the Baca Grande POA. So, they kind of just what permits you have to pull and stuff like that, acquiring land, those types of things. Goldie, anything you want to add to that?
I guess I just thought about how with Earthships, they talk about the pockets of freedom, and our county doesn't have any building codes technically, but where we're at, because we're in a POA, a Property Owners Association, we do have building guidelines that we have to go by. And also, just so people know, there are certain things that are state regulated. So even though we're in a county with no building permits, there are electrical and plumbing requirements that we have to abide by.
And then on top of the state ones with Department of Regulatory Agencies with electrical and plumbing, you do have to pull, if you're building off grid in certain parts, if you have a septic tank, you have to pull a county building permit, a county septic permit. And then also the Saguache County, even though there's no building codes, you do have to pull a county permit as well. Right. So, and then I guess if you're planning on doing a well, you would be pulling a well permit, which is through the state. So they control that. And then there are things, obviously with Earthship, like rainwater harvesting and that. Colorado, it's, I think, 110 gallons to be able to capture from your roof if you're using it for watering your garden, stuff like that. But through the state, you can get a rooftop precipitation collection system permit. And it's something that if you have a well permit, you can pull that for free. And it's more or less just being legal to capture rainwater from your roof, which Earthship is a primary, I wouldn't say inventor of, but, pusher of that type of system. So
Where we live, it's called the Baca Grande, and it's outside of the town of Crestone. And so within the Baca, we have a few different zones, and the zones it's called Chalet 1, Chalet 2, and Chalet 3, and those are pretty much all up on the mountainside. And then there's the Grants, and that's where Pete's build is, and then Goldie and our build is also in the Grants. We also have a zone called Casita Park, and that's just up T Road a little ways. And so some of the building requirements real quick in where we're at is in Chalet 1, 2, and 3, and in the Grants, it's a 900 square foot minimum build. And some of the parcels range from, typically one parcel is about almost 2 acres.
For a grant parcel.
And then for the chalets, they're like quarter-acre parcels pretty much, a little bit more expensive. And then other
chalet parcels are half-acre parcels.
Half, okay.
And then Casita Park is quarter-acre parcels.
Quarter-acre parcels in Casita Park, and their minimum building square footage is 720.
Yep. Also, another thing that's worth mentioning with those differences is with the grants, it's primarily all septic and well, or rooftop precipitation would be your water source. And then the chalets, along with Casita Park, you 9 times out of 10 are going to be tapped into the water treatment and an electric. So
full grid.
And
then the town of Crestone is its own entity. It's its own separate ordeal, and that's county land. And so anywhere outside of those zones I just said in this county, if you're in county land, there's no building codes, there's no HOA.
The only permit you really have to pull right away with county land is just your county building permit. And then, if it took you a year just to pound tires or something like that, you could, and you're not ready for it with electrical or plumbing, you still have to pull them through the state. But in the same sense, you don't have to pull them right away, where in the Baca Grande, the POA, they make you pull all your permits right away, your electrical permit, your water or your, well permit, your septic permit, all these things, even if you're not necessarily ready for them, which is a little bit extra money, especially up front, along with some deposit fees too. So
Yeah, so when you're building with the POA, you have to get the building permit. They want to see all these things: the site plan, excavation plan, elevations, tap fees, well permits. So all these things they want to see before they're going to give you a building permit. And so those things will cost money. Like, for instance, the 1,600 square foot house that I just pulled some permits for ended up being about $170 for the electrical permit and about $115 for the plumbing permit. And those are good for 1 year. And you can get an extension, but if it takes longer than that, you're going to have to pay for it again. So sometimes the fees really do add up. That was something that we found. And on top of the POA fees that you'll pay from being here, which are about $425 a year, to be a part of this property owners association, our taxes are about $200 a year. They do that based on your land value.
and then also, I guess, on top of those things that Goldie just mentioned, the POA, you do have to put down a $1,500 building deposit, which you get back in stages of $500 over 3 increments. And I think the increments are, the first one is foundation is done, and then you get $500 back. The next 500 is exterior completion, which is more or less kind of dried in and that type of thing. And then the last one is when you get your electrical and plumbing signed off with the state, and that's more or less then you're done.
Yep.
So you do have to pay on top of the $1,500. I believe it's a $500 building permit, if you will, not a permit, but just a $500 fee to build in the POA, because I remember it was $1,500 for the deposit and then the $500 just for the fee.
Build.
Yeah.
And so we're talking some money here, folks.
Money.
Money.
County permit was for septic. I think it's $225. And then you said the electrical and plumbing, but what's the well? I forget. Was it
The well permit, I think, was 100.
100?
And then they want, they're going to ask maybe for a driveway. To get a driveway permit, you have to put down $100 deposit, which they give back to you after you return the road to how it was.
And that's like if you have to get like a culvert, I believe in, which I think both of us didn't have to do that.
Right.
The POA sends out someone to look at it, and at least where we're at, you didn't have to do that. So that was a fee that we didn't pay. But also nowadays, if you build out in the grants off grid like us and have a septic tank, they do have you put the septic tank in supposedly first. Which could be, $5,000-$6,000 at least for a septic. On top of, you have to have engineered stamps from an architect, so that's another $1,000 to $1,500 if you get lucky. So that's right off the bat probably $8,000 before you can even technically start building. So there are a lot of extra things that the POA requires you to do, opposed to if you just bought a land in the county for 40 acres for $30,000 or something like that. So.
But normally those parcels are way out, away from our kind of community here in the POA. And I think that personally it's worth building in the POA for our neighborhood and community, because our neighbors have helped us with our houses a ton.
Yeah.
So there's that to be accounted for.
What other things do you think, Goldie, with kind of along those lines of surprises?
Yeah, I guess just be ready to spend some money. It's a good idea to get your land surveyed so that you are sure that you're building on your right property. And that cost us $500. I mean, you can do it yourself, but if you mess up and you're building on your neighbor's land, that's not good.
And sometimes those pins are really hard to find, even if you have a metal detector.
Yeah.
I walked out with our friend Thomas and we tried to find my pins and just couldn't find it. And I had to pay someone a couple $100 to get it surveyed and come out and put my corners and all that stuff in, so you're good, because there are obviously setbacks when you have to build, and your septic has to be so far away from your well or whatnot, so it's good to know.
Yeah. And basically, so if we're, we want more earth shippers to come out and build in Crestone, it's, I think, a better idea to be in the grants when Matt talked about those different areas to build. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but in the grants, we're completely off grid. If you're going to build in the chalets, you're going to be on grid. You can still do solar, but you're going to be hooked up to the septic
Or to the
the main line.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just landscape. We're down here in the Grants where we have a bunch of sand, which is perfect for pounding tires. And then up in the chalets, it's just rock and shale, and you got to import some dirt.
And with excavation, that's another kind of hidden fee where you might be paying someone $110, $120 an hour. And if you're moving big rocks and you're trying to do stuff like that up in the chalets, that's a lot harder work than just digging sand.
And radon concerns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So come to the Grants if you want to build an Earthship.
And honestly, too, on that note of just trying to get more people that, want to do Earthships and trying to think about how available it is. I mean, you can buy a piece of land traditionally in the Grants. Mine was $2,700. Prices have gone up probably 2 to 3 times since then. So you might see a piece of land for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 on the market right now. But through Saguache County's website, they do have 2 types of ways to acquire land. One of them is the ones that are county-owned lots still. So there's a lot of county-owned lots, not just in Crestone or the Baca, but elsewhere in the county. But I think the county-owned lots for a grant land is like $4,000. So for $4,000, you could have 1.5 acres to 2 acres and be able to get started on top of some of those fees. But realistically, it's affordable opposed to if you went out in the middle of the county and had to pay $30,000 or $40,000 for a bigger parcel where you don't have to do all these extra fees, but it's more money up front for the land. So, Matt, you're going to talk about the tax?
Yeah, so you can go on the Saguache County website, and I'm pretty sure it's in land use. Is it?
I know land use was for the county-owned lots. The tax ones might be there as well.
Yeah, so there's a back tax. They call them delinquent properties or back tax properties, and it's people who just didn't pay their taxes. So you can come in and pay the taxes on that land, and you can get a treasurer's deed over a certain amount of time. And I'm not exactly sure on how to do it. You need to do your own research, but I've known a couple people who have gotten some really cheap properties through the delinquent or back tax properties.
And then even on, I think the chalet lots are $4,000 or $5,000 as well. And then even the Casita Park lots, if anyone was interested in that, with the smaller ones, that I think those ones are $1,800 per parcel. So for a quarter acre, $1,800, not a bad deal if you're on a budget. So
I think also it's really worth it if you can come and visit and see the land. I mean, we were looking at properties online, and it wasn't until we were actually in Crestone and got to walk around and see the place. And then when we found our property, that was when we just knew that was the right spot for us, because, online they can take pictures that are kind of deceiving of where you're actually at. So, yeah.
And so you want to tell them what we paid and how many acres?
Yeah, we paid $16,500 for 4 acres. That was kind of a lot back 4 or 5 years ago when we bought it, but now prices are definitely going up there.
The land spoke to us.
And again, mine about 5 years ago when I bought it was $2,700 for 1.5 acres about. And then I bought another lot to the south of me from a neighbor for $4,000. So now I have 2 lots that are kind of bordering each other. And you can also consolidate your lots so you don't have to pay $420 on each lot fee. That's worth mentioning. So if you don't have your lots consolidated and you have 2 parcels right next to each other, in theory, you'd be paying double taxes and double POA fees a year, where if you consolidate it with the county, I think it's $1,000 around there. And then now instead of having 1 and 1.65 acre lots, now I have 3 1/4 acre lot. So,
and so about 4 years ago, Pete and then Goldie and I pulled our building permits on the same day, pretty much.
Yep.
So Pete and I are a little bit outdated, and currently Goldie is pulling permits for a build for her mother, and this is all super current information. So she's up to date on this stuff. So,
and just to be clear too, so my mom's lot is in Chalet 1s, and there are some things that you have to look out for if you find a lot up there. as far as being hooked into the water lines and sewage lines, there can be some big hidden fees as far as tapping into that. Like all those lots have tap fees and some of them are paid, but they still don't have access to the lines. And so you're going to end up paying like maybe $30,000 in excavation fees, even if you find a super cheap lot. So really do your research. And I would even say, like I'm willing to talk to anyone that has questions about those lots. Like if you have a specific lot that you find, I feel like I kind of got the hang of what to look for. So
before you buy the lot.
Yeah, before you buy it.
Yes.
Before you buy the lot.
We learned this the hard way with her mom's build. So
again, tying the fact that Earthship friendly, super friendly here in Saguache County, Pocket of Freedom. We're 2.5 hours north of Taos, so it's very similar to Earthship's climate and obviously altitude, all that type of stuff. We're looking at the same Sangre de Cristo mountain range that they're looking at, which is pretty cool. And again, man, if you wanted to do an internship or go to the academy and, get excited and buy some land, this is a great place for it. And it's already more or less set up in the very similar way for them. So we know probably at least 10 plus Earthships here in Crestone. So again, Pocket of Freedom, lots of alternative building, super cool community.
yeah, like Pete said, it's alternative building community, and we're trying to protect that and keep that rolling. Whatever you want to build, if you got a cool idea, come out here and try it. And just there's people here to run ideas by, do it yourself, we'll help, work trades. It's a great community.
Yeah, and I think all of the fees and everything can sound kind of daunting, but it's still totally worth it. I would definitely not change what we have done and how much we've spent for anything. I even did try to start the permitting process for an Earthship up in Denver in Jefferson County. And the fact that people down here, like Earthship is a household name and people know what it is, and we're here. So just come and do it. Owner Builders Unite.
Like and subscribe.
Thanks, guys. Comment us.